So you guys are doubling down on programmatic. You're sort of making waves here and charging a path. Tell me how's that working out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be working on a client who has taken a very, hefty jump into programmatic, and it's great because we're no longer justifying the budgets and what we're doing. We're really now focused on the nitty-gritties and how to make programmatic much smarter versus whether we should be in programmatic or whether we should be in site direct buys. It's nice to kind of get that conversation out of the way and really be focused on how to make things smarter.
So let's talk about the journey from display as the precursor and leader moving into video, right? Because we're talking about performance versus reach. Tell us how display set up runway for video to be more bullish about moving more dollars into programmatic.
Yeah, so you're definitely right. I mean, we were, I think most clients here at Starcom, really their foray into programmatic has been in the display space. And then it's opened up opportunities to think about video. I mean, video is challenging to buy on a grand scale, and so it only seemed natural that you were going to aggregators for video. So then the next natural is if you're comfortable then in display in a programmatic space, video only seemed like a natural extension of that. But I don't think that clients are just jumping into programmatic video without typically having a baseline of understanding from the display side, simply because we have much more validation on the display side, and there's a little bit more uncertainty in view, things that we know there's a much higher price tag to go for video, and so there's a much shadier opportunity in video in the programmatic space that we have to be concerned about.
So you guys, you ran 101 campaigns last year, was that the number you said?
Yeah.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about who's doing that buying and planning. Is it digital natives, online video specialists? Is it TV guys that now have digital titles? Who's got the chops to actually, drive the ROI here?
Yeah, so, I mean, interestingly, at Starcom, we're sort of going through a transformation, but it's absolutely natives at its core who understand the complexities that sit within digital. But I have to say is, half of the challenges we have are in justifying it versus TV, and I'd say actually the justification comes better from a TV person. So we typically call them in, and the joke is, no, you go justify why it should be digital dollars, because it actually comes with a lot of validity from your mouth when you guys are actually saying, no, we shouldn't run the spot on television, we should put it into programmatic. I think it just goes over better than natives who sit and sort of have a, don't access the other 60 to 70% of the media dollars. I mean, really, there's pulling the levers, and then there's making the brand recommendations and having a much larger discussion. I'd say those are much more collaborative. In here, IOs and working through the nitty-gritty, that's definitely still digital natives.
How far are we from ubiquitous video and not TV versus online video or digital? Like, when is that point of arrival?
Well, there was a great article that some of us were passing around that made us laugh. It said media buyers aren't ready, and our joke is I think everyone just keeps pointing fingers about who's not ready so that everyone doesn't have to do it. The challenge is our systems aren't together yet. So we can be as ready as we want to be, but when you get added value television in the digital space, we still have to traffic it the traditional digital way. So I think from a mindset, we're there.
So let's go to the brands though. So let's take Kellogg's. Do you have a digital brand manager that's controlling media dollars for digital, and do you have a TV brand manager? What's that look like on your client?
So on a brand side, no. On a media professional side, yes, but they're all working together. So, but brands, no, you sit down and have one brand discussion about their allocation across everything. We don't have interactive brand managers, and then, no, I haven't seen that in a while on clients.
Okay, so I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
Because we sometimes point the finger at clients being behind the curve on this, and so.
But I do think that some of the measurement tools are challenging. So in CPG, we tend to rely heavily on market mix modeling, but it takes a very specific, so it says television versus online video versus.
And what's the latency on that?
A year and a half. Okay.
So. That's meaningful.
Right. We make real-time decisions. But,
just saying.
But what it does is it what we're trying to do in that case is actually take some of the learnings that we have from television. And so, one thing that I'm really hot on lately is the idea of, we talked about addressable, but also thinking about what's the opportunity for spill and why is television done really well, and what is then our opportunity to have spill in digital so that we can have the same result. I mean, the joke that I've had is I've always worked on clients where you sort of needed $5 and a stomach. I mean, worked on a beverage, I've worked on cereal, I've worked on, other CPGs. And so while we do have specific targets we go after, there is a broad swath of people buying our actual products.
Well, but this is why I hang on addressable, because for me in this space of video and programmatic, addressable is like engagement for all of digital, right? Because we talk about addressable from television, and now we're applying that construct in video. And I want to drill that down to, is it about more efficiency or better targeting? Because they're different, right, from a media performance perspective. So in your programmatic lens, the use of data and applying that for buying, is it about driving ROI through eliminating waste or through better targeting an audience and a message?
But they're interrelated. For us, it's about driving down cost where we think cost was inflated for whatever reasons on a direct sales opportunity, driving down those costs to actually pay for what we call, what the impression's worth, and then actually then figuring out, I think the challenge is a person 24 when your target's 25 to 54 waste or spill? And I think that's what we're trying to get at. So when you talk about addressable and we think about driving ROI, you can still drive a fantastic ROI on a 24-year-old and on a 55-year-old. And so what we're trying to figure out in an addressable fashion is, what is our core target in programmatic? But then when you buy a spot, and everybody knows my favorite show is The Voice, when you buy a spot on The Voice, like, everyone sees it.
Do you want to we can turn our chairs around at some point and make it sort of ceremonial?
But everybody sees it. We just know exactly who we know who we were trying to get a higher concentration of seeing that. And I just want to make sure that in display, we're starting to find out some opportunities for increasing audience sizes, because we have, again, on a much broader targeted advertiser like I work on, and other clients here at Starcom, this is not just my current client, is figuring out an opportunity to actually figure out who's your core, but then who's the opportunity within that, so that your ROI is not, we do not get ROI figures by target.
Okay, so I'm going to dive into this because, let's talk about the P&L, right? From the media perspective, because I think this is an important conversation that we dance around. So right now in programmatic, because we talk about cost and efficiency and stuff like that, your immediate response on what it is was about finding better value, value for investment, right? So right now in video, are programmatic tools on the buy side, are they procurement tools or are they business planning tools? Where are they in maturation? Because I think that's really important for setting the path at which what is now a nascent space evolves.
Yeah, I don't know exactly if I know how to answer that question. On our side, the tools we're using is about how to find extensions. Most of our tools are off of our television basis.
But what's success to your client? Is about getting more media for less dollars, or is about spending the same dollar for dollar, but having proof points around how much better that media is performing?
I would argue we're doing both.
Okay.
So we're getting more media but for the same amount of money typically. Because I think programmatic isn't about saying, well, now I can do digital at half the cost, so give that money somewhere else. It's about saying, what then can I do? How can I make that other half of the dollars that I potentially didn't have to spend because our CPMs potentially have come down? How can I make that even more effective so the whole pot becomes absolutely better?
Okay. So one last question, because I just think, I think this, I'm just personally curious. Put on a publisher hat right now, right? Because you're on the buy side hammering, whether it's procurement or it's business partnership, whatever the purpose is, you're on the publisher side. And you're hearing the buying side talk about getting more for less. What would you, if you were sort of representing the programmatic ecosystem, what's the value prop for publishers? Why do they want to play in this space in order to sort of, other than just, it's table stakes, but where do you see publishers getting value?
I think publishers I think the mandate right now is defining what you have. So I think that there's a lot of talk that I have premium inventory. I think we need people to start putting real research and definitions towards content adjacency. I would love, love, love to go out and understand that a content adjacency here makes potentially more sense for a particular brand than a programmatic buy, and the combination of the two works even better together. No one right now, everyone is so scared to come up with and actually have a point of view from a research perspective. I want real measurement around these things to actually have it, because I just think everyone's still talking.
And this is what I think is really interesting from the publisher side of the business right now. And I look at my client portfolio, and the conversations I'm having with my clients, who are typically publishers, are, is your competitive advantage in content or is it in technology?